Kia ora, I am Tuta Imanu with the Cook Islands Television News. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern today announced relaxation on the issue of pension portability, whereby people with state pension in New Zealand do not have to return to New Zealand to become eligible to receive the money. She said because Cook Islands was in the realm of New Zealand, people could spend their 5 years in the Cook Islands and not worry about going back to New Zealand. Ms. Ardern said her government, after 4 months of careful deliberation, were going to do a Pacific reset. Shalveen Chand reports.
The issue of pension portability had been a long contentious one. Many businesses had to be closed because people had to return to New Zealand and live there for 5 years and then get the money under the New Zealand superannuation scheme. This will no longer be the case as Ms. Ardern made a special announcement at the official press conference held at the Cabinet Office in Rarotonga.
We do have an announcement that we wanted to make here in the Cook Islands off the back of a conversation that we did have in December. And Prime Minister Puna raised again an issue that he actually raised in Parliament, I think in 2015. And it was an issue that then New Zealand First and the New Zealand Labour Party supported work to be done on and resolution around, and that was the issue of pension portability. Some of you may know, especially those who are resident here in the Cook Islands, the rules that sit around our pension system in New Zealand. That requires that past the age of 20 you spend 10 years working in New Zealand, and then another 5 later on at the end of your working life in order to be eligible for the New Zealand pension. Now, of course, there are a number of taxpayers in New Zealand who will, of course, fulfil that 10-year element of our pension scheme by working in New Zealand, but may later on in life choose to go and work and live in Niue or Tokelau, or, as many choose to do, the Cook Islands. They'll often run businesses, become members of the community here, but then find themselves in a situation where they will be considering leaving their home and their businesses and their employment in order to go back to New Zealand for those final 5 years to ensure their eligibility. Now, that's not a situation that we think really is satisfactory, either for Niue, the Tokelau and the Cook Islands, but in many cases they may return to New Zealand and struggle, for instance, to find work in that time of their life as well. So pension portability rightly has been raised consistently, particularly by Niue and the Cook Islands. The Cook Islands is the most affected by the scheme, and so that's why over the course of several months and as a priority, particularly for the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who, as the leader of New Zealand First, raised this issue during coalition talks, and as a party we always agreed with that sentiment. So he made it a priority. Our Minister for Social Development, who I acknowledge here today, expedited the work, made sure that we could get the legislation ready, and it's in a position now where we anticipate, all going to plan, that we should have full pension portability no later than January 2019.
According to the current pension portability policies, a person is entitled to either the New Zealand superannuation or veteran scheme if he or she been resident and present in New Zealand for more than 10 years since the age of 20, with 5 years since the age of 50.
Here's the reality. Look, these are realm countries. What that means is we're in a special, historical, constitutional arrangement with a capital S, not a small one. And that's what the Pacific Reset means. We've got you asking a fair question, and we're all looking, some of us less guilty than others, but we're all in a way responsible because we've failed to deal with the issue properly a long, long time ago. Thank heavens we're still in the game, Carmel, you Prime Minister, and Jacinda Ardern, to actually fix it. But whilst we were not fixing it, we were allowing in our country over 87,000 people to come in the last 15 years to get a full pension after just 10 years. Now see the iniquity of that? So I'd have a good hard look at a whole lot of people in the intelligentsia and the think tanks of New Zealand and in Treasury for that matter and ask why that was. But I'm pleased, I'm here today and I'm delighted to be part of its resolution.
This means relief to a lot of people. According to New Zealand's Minister for Social Development, Carmel Sepuloni, a lot of thought was put into this. She said this was being done because it would benefit countries in the realm of New Zealand.
It means that people who have served 10 years in New Zealand under the age of 50 and want to come back to the Cook Islands or Niue or Tokelau after they are age 50 can still do so, serve their 5 years over here and still be eligible for their full superannuation in New Zealand. And we think that's fair because they're actually part of the realm of New Zealand. We want to encourage people to go back to Niue, Cook Islands, Tokelau, if they feel like they have something to contribute. If they want to do that, then we don't want to disadvantage anyone.
Cook Islands Prime Minister Henry Puna said this was a welcome news and he was very excited at what this would do for the island nation.
You know, when we went to appear before the New Zealand Select Committee in 2015, the Honourable Winston Peters was very, very strong in his support, and so was the Labour Party, who were in opposition at the time. And they have delivered on their promise, on their support, and it's so wonderful to hear that beautiful announcement today. So to all those who are in this boat, you don't have to worry about looking for accommodation in New Zealand. You? And we really need to give our applause again to this major announcement.
While all this is good news, the relaxation on the pension portability does not just come into effect.
At the latest, January 2019, hopefully earlier, we'll see what we can do. We managed to get the legislation, basically we've managed to get it passed by Cabinet. The legislation should be through will be through by the end of this year. So it's just January 2019 will be the latest.
During the press conference, Ms. Ardern explained that the government acted as swiftly as possible in order to make the best decision.
In terms of it taking so long, it's taken us, 4 months? So I think that's pretty quick. As for the past 9 years, you're asking the wrong person. I can't answer that. That's a question for someone else. But I'd like to think that we moved pretty quickly on this one. In terms of retrospective, look, anyone who's back in New Zealand now drawing down their pension, of course, if they're free to come back. But really we've created a change in regime that means those who are here will not have to return. But that's if I've understood your question correctly, Lloyd. When it comes to the wider deductibility issues, those ones also have been championed by Labour in New Zealand First. They're a little bit more complex because they affect nations from around the world. So the Section 70 issues are on a bit more of a long track because they're going to take a little longer for us to work through. This, we knew we could resolve quickly and easily, and it will have a huge effect for Tokelau, Niue and the Cook Islands. So we fast-tracked it, but the other work's still being done.
Also, among other things that were put to the two Prime Ministers was the delay in the Safe Drinking Water project.
That was one of the issues that was discussed this morning. There are some concerns. There are some real concerns. However, we are going through a process in order to establish those concerns on a very solid footing before we look at all the options that may be available to us. Both governments are aware of those concerns, and we're working together. We've undertaken to work together to address those concerns. But you will appreciate that the difficulty with discussing with the third party is the fact that they don't have diplomatic representation in Wellington at the moment, and so the channel of communication with the third government is still there, but the timing is not just right at this stage. But the testings I referred to earlier on for us will be completed at the end of this month, and that's when we'll be in a firm position to have a look at our options.
The pension portability relaxation would come into effect by 2019, according to the New Zealand government. This news is relief to many who have had to leave behind loved ones in Cook Islands or desert businesses. One thing for sure, this marks a win on a contentious issue that has taken almost a decade to solve. Shelvin Chand, Cook Islands Television News.
And that was the first half of our news. We'll be right back after these commercials.